Like most of us, because of the coronavirus outbreak, I'm stuck at home. As a 15-year-old, I wasn't quite expecting this to be my life as a teenager. Curious about what the world looks like amid the pandemic, I'm talking with people who are on the front lines, helping our society get through this difficult time. Sharing their stories gives me hope, while I'm 15 and quarantined. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of 15 in Quarantine. Today I have Mr. Marshall Freeman with us. Mr. Freeman is the Chief Operations Officer for the Atlanta Police Foundation. Mr. Freeman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it
Could,
very much.
could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I am Marshall Freeman. Again, Chief Operating Officer over at the Atlanta Police Foundation. I'm happy to be here with you all. I actually joined the Police Foundation about 4 years ago, and our organization is an organization that leads strategy in the city of Atlanta all around safety and security and public safety. So we work in hand with the mayor's office and the chief of police to make decisions around what's happening throughout our city, all with the whole goal of driving down crime in the city.
So why is the Atlanta Foundation important to the city of Atlanta? I know you mentioned that you guys work with the mayor, but can you just please talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, I think we're really important because of the impact that we have. So all of the programs that we have, and we have, 20 to 30 different programs that are all designed around reducing crime in the city. And so we have programs, like our At Promise Center, there's a youth center over on the west side that's responsible for working with young people and youth throughout the city in order to keep them off of the streets and give them opportunities so they can, get GEDs and get tech certifications and all these cool things in an effort, again, to reduce crime. So every program is kind of designed with that in mind from the Police Foundation. So I'd say that's why we're really important to the city.
So I imagine that your job has changed because of this pandemic. How has it changed?
It's actually changed a lot. Before the pandemic, I spent most of my days, focusing on overseeing, all of the programs that we have. And once the pandemic started, then I kind of sprung right into assisting the police department with all of the logistics around supplies. And obviously, you guys know that, securing and procuring, mask and hand sanitizer and, gloves and everything that would keep the officers safe became top priority for everybody. And so that was a lot of my days since the pandemic started. It really sprung into action. It was figuring out how could we source all of these products, internationally from all different places around the world and get them here to Atlanta as fast as we could in order to keep everybody safe.
So did you consider yourself an essential worker, or do you rather?
Yeah, you know what? That's that's actually I guess a little loaded question, I guess, or a loaded answer rather. Um, I would consider myself, yes, an essential worker, but I'd say that I consider myself an essential worker because my job is to protect other essential workers. So that's how I would see it.
So in what ways was the foundation able to support the Atlanta Police Department during the pandemic? And what are some of the challenges and success stories during this time?
Sure. So right away, most of our donors and supporters stepped up to contribute funding that allowed us to do a lot of things. I mean, so we purchased, 65,000, face masks. I mean, we were able to work with some of our partners like Tito's, and normally an alcohol distributor that usually provides like alcohol for consumption. They were able to, develop these 55-gallon drums for us that allowed us to have, hand sanitizer. And so we just were able to work with a lot of different partners to secure a lot of things immediately. And then, like I mentioned, the decontamination of all of the police precincts, we were able to also do on a regular basis. And then also, the police cars and us doing all of those things, really, really, really helped the officers tremendously. We had at the very start of this, up until about 3 weeks ago, we had only had 14 of our police officers to test positive for COVID-19 since the entire thing started. And now that things have kind of ramped back up, I think everybody took a little bit of a relaxed approach to the fighting the COVID crisis. And we've seen numbers, obviously rise throughout the country.
Yeah.
But we have also seen numbers now rise throughout our department. So we have been able to still do everything that we can to obviously keep that number really, really low and to still be sitting at, less than 100, officers that are positive for COVID, is really good for us considering, places like, New York City, that had, in the hundreds and now into the thousands of officers that have tested positive for COVID-19. So we've been doing really well.
So this summer, while people across the country and in Atlanta suffered from the pandemic, they also took to the streets to protest racial inequality. Can you please speak about the role of the foundation during this time?
Yeah, so that was another big thing for us. So we obviously, kind of found ourselves, I think, in unique territory, territory that, frankly, our country has never been in, at least not, in the last, quite a few years. Historically, yes, there's been a lot of racial tensions and things that have happened, but I think we all thought that we were, really past that. And so obviously events and things took place, but our foundation, again, really stepped in two ways. It was very important for us to first talk to the community. So we wanted to hear from the community, take all of their thoughts, feedback, ideas. Obviously, emotions and tensions were high. So we really put ourselves in a position of listening. Once we heard from the community, then secondly, we wanted to also make sure that the officers felt supported during this time, because that's also been a huge issue with the morale of the department during this time. So we also stepped in to do different things for them, like provide meals and make sure that we could, do and provide different resources that they needed to get them throughout this time as well. So they would also feel like they had support. And that was really important for our organization as a whole. And so obviously that's kind of what we did. And so right now, now that we are, a few weeks after the initial protests, which started on May 29th in the city of Atlanta, we have been leading this whole reform conversation in our city. So we've been putting together a plan that really doubles down and focuses on how can we do more with training? How can we do more with community policing? How can we now take, everything to the next level and do more? We've heard the community, so now we're putting it into a big plan that will go to the mayor over the next couple of days here. And we're hoping that a lot of our recommendations and this entire plan is executed for our city, because I think it would be really good.
So defunding the police is something that has been debated recently. As someone whose responsibilities include supporting the Atlanta Police Department, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the defunding the police conversation is a tricky one, because what I think the conversation has been intended to shed light on the idea that across the country there's a greater investment that is needed in human services, all about counseling and helping with homelessness and all of those different things, and education throughout different communities. And I think where the challenge has become is that we can have that conversation about investing into all of these things and social services and everything. We can have that conversation and everybody agrees, across the board. Police officers agree. Anybody would tell you, hey, we need more social services. But I think the challenge is that the conversation has become, let's take the money away from police and let's put it there. And I don't think we need to have that conversation. I think we need to be talking about how can we raise more funds to invest in our communities. And then on the same hand, how can we also honestly contribute more to our police departments, because everyone has the desire to see more training, more things, more technology enhancements and things that could help our department. So let's not talk about pulling money away. Let's actually talk about putting more money into the department at this time.
How has the pandemic impacted your personal approach to your job?
I think everybody's personal approach has been impacted big time. For us, we have never been an organization that has done virtual work or work from home or telecommuting. We have always been in the office, hands-on, around a table, all working together. And I think this has forced us to try to drive the same level of productivity without having everybody in the same space. And so I think that would be the biggest way that our work has changed during this time. It's been now, how can we still accomplish our same programs, our goals, get these things happening, make them happen, and have them going fine without all being together.
So lastly, what is your message of hope for teenagers like me?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a tough question. I really wholeheartedly believe that what I have seen is that teenagers in this day and age have really done it right. There is a lot of brilliant young people that exist all throughout this country. And so I am hopeful that, again, we are going to continue to see leadership from the younger generation, and that the leadership from the younger generation is ultimately going to overtake some of the lack of leadership that exists, kind of in various places throughout our country. So I think that there is an opportunity for the innovative approach that the youth have, the technology, that hands-on kind of savviness that all of the younger generation is now having. I think there's an opportunity for them to really take hold and use that for good throughout our country. So I'm just excited about the work that everybody is doing. And so I really hope that everybody continues to, put education first and continue to focus on it, because that becomes important throughout this time, no matter what you want to do. If you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to go work for anybody else, it doesn't matter. You've got to learn. You've got to have that education and that solid foundation. So I'm excited about young people in our country today.
Mr. Freeman, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you very much for having me.